As a star in the film industry, Laura has to listen to hundreds of people pitching their script ideas. Most of the time they're awful, but she still has to smile and nod along to avoid hurting their feelings. One day, during a party, her ex-husband Tony comes to see her and uses a fake story pitch to call her out for not being in their daughter's life enough. Laura is ambitious, so her career is her priority. Tony is a screenwriter and a recovering alcoholic whose depression is keeping him from writing lately. An argument ensues, and Tony asks Laura if she got a cake for their daughter's birthday. Laura says she did, but as soon as she leaves, she tells her assistant Christian to get a cake fast. Then Laura is approached by her rival Alba, who shares that a famous billionaire named Snail has landed his private jet nearby because he'll be choosing a star for his latest project. Both women want to be selected and exchange a few insults. When Laura reaches the reception, tons of reporters are waiting at the entrance. She approaches Snail's son Sebastian and tries to find out more about his dad's secret project, but Sebastian refuses to say anything. Instead, he mocks her for wearing a very old watch. He also brings up the recent death of two of the richest people in the world and goes on a rant about how old men behave, including his own father, accidentally revealing that Alba was the chosen one. Laura is devastated, but has to keep her smile up for the cameras. Afterward, she goes back to the party and has to stay silent while Sebastian and other men talk about her and Alba as if they were an afterthought. When the women find a moment alone, Laura swallows her pride and congratulates Alba, saying that if anyone had to take the job from her then, she's glad it was her. Alba shakes her hand and agrees that women must stick together to survive in this industry. Tonight, Alba has to present a film in front of a huge crowd, but she admits she hasn't seen it. So Laura tells her a quick summary of the story. However, this turns out to be a fake plot, and Alba embarrasses herself in front of everyone, which was Laura's revenge plan. Later in the car, Christian has to deal with all of Sebastian's angry messages. Laura receives a call from Tony, who is at the airport. His flight has been canceled, and chaos has taken over the place. But before Tony can say anything else, the call suddenly ends. Then Christian checks the news and discovers the Pope is dead, which makes him the third rich man to die in just a few days. Soon they get to the airport, and Laura manages to get on Snail's jet as Alba's replacement, but they force her to leave Christian behind. As the plane takes off, Laura chats with another guest who tells her about the death of yet another wealthy man that happened a few minutes ago. His extremely white teeth creep Laura out. Moments later, Laura is on a video call with Tony and their daughter Anna to celebrate her birthday. However, Anna isn't happy that both her parents are away and hangs up without blowing the candles or saying a single word. Then Laura asks Tony to sign the divorce papers, but their argument ends with a promise to meet each other in court. When Laura goes to the bathroom, she steals some very expensive creams. On her way back to her seat, she notices the other guest's teeth glowing. Eventually, the plane lands in Alaska, and while the others leave in cars, Laura is picked up by a sled pulled by dogs. The driver takes her phone before giving her some furs to help her with the cold. During the trip, the man tells her that Snail's expanding his company on a very aggressive scale, and all the new workers are getting amazing salaries, not to mention all the benefits. Because of the snowstorm, they don't hear the plane blow up. The sled takes Laura to a settlement where Mr. Snail welcomes all the new arrivals with a speech about Alaska's first settlers. He built this place to honor them and to remind people of those pioneers who built their fortune with hard work, which he demonstrates by using a pickaxe. Everyone is invited to a shack for a drink, while Snail keeps on talking, saying that the world is sick with fragility and laziness. Snail is tired of the new generation blaming things on the hardworking elites because he thinks the rich are actually the solution. All the people he's brought to Alaska were chosen to be part of a new independent division of his company that will be focused on social interests like renewable energy and philanthropy. Laura gladly signs the contract that grants her plenty of stocks and joins the celebration. When she takes a break to smoke, Snail approaches her to chat, and they bond over not understanding their kids. He also tells her about an auction in Buckingham Palace and wants her to go there to start making purchases for the company, insisting she must spend as much money as possible. Before leaving, he gives Laura a book and tells her to read it. The next day, Laura leaves Alaska with Mr. E in Snail's helicopter. She checks the book and notices a quote about being rich on the back. He was given the same book, and he explains Snail has sent him to Sicily to audit refugee camps. He makes a tasteless joke about slavery that makes Laura uncomfortable. During the flight, she tries to call Anna, but she won't pick up. When she checks the news, she's shocked to discover that Buckingham Palace was attacked. She starts looking for more information and learns that billionaires and leaders are dying all over the world. Nobody has an explanation, so they're blaming them on terrorist attacks or luxury items being poisoned. They mention plutophobia, which is hatred towards the rich. When Laura reaches London, panic has taken over the streets. Christian picks her up and says everyone is exaggerating, thinking the king's only indisposed. The car won't move because chaos is making traffic difficult. So Laura thinks about the situation and wonders if she and Christian count as rich. Compared to the big elite, she thinks she's technically middle class. Regardless of all the rumors about terrorist attacks, the auction is still held in Buckingham Palace. Laura begins bidding for an important painting, but she's interrupted by a call from Anna. She panics because she wants to talk to her daughter but not miss the auction, so she offers $2 million for the painting and wins it. Then she rushes into another room to have a drink while talking to Anna, whose voice isn't very clear because of the static. Among the guests, Laura notices another man with glowing teeth. Suddenly, she hears some screaming and goes back to the auction room to discover the king dying. The next few days, all news outlets are filled with discussion about the mysterious flu that is only targeting the wealthiest people in the world. There are lots of comments about terrorism, but also many conspiracy theories on the internet. Soon it's discovered that the glowing teeth are a symptom of this flu. Financial activity is suspended and the elite asks for special protection. Christian thinks the government should gather all the billionaires in one place and lock them up so the rest of society can avoid going through another quarantine. Laura gets a call from her mother, who informs her that Anna is staying with her in Spain. Afterward, Laura goes to the company's London office, where employees are now wearing masks. Sebastian is furious that Snail gave her a position that should have been his and starts destroying everything in the room while calling her a peasant. He reveals that his father fired him and he ran to hide in Alaska after hearing some strange rumors, meaning he's been burning through the family fortune. Luckily, Sebastian has been diverting company money to his private fund, so he can survive on his own. Laura notices Sebastian's teeth glowing and decides to leave. Christian rushes to inform her that the government has declared a state of emergency, so all flights are canceled. She tells him to find her something anyway, because she's desperate to return to her daughter and advises Christian to leave the city as soon as he can. She gets in a company car and calls her broker to check on her stocks. The driver overhears this and quickly puts on a mask. The broker tells Laura that because of the chaos in the economy, her stocks have grown and she's now rich, but he can't celebrate considering the circumstances. Getting scared, Laura asks him to sell her stocks, but it can't be done because the market is closed. Her only options are spending the money or giving it away. Then Laura goes to her apartment and begins packing, but she can't help stopping at the mirror to look at her teeth. At that moment, someone rings her bell, and she opens the door to find 3 soldiers, who explain she was chosen for special protection. She can stay in her apartment or be taken to a safe location, and Laura chooses the latter. However, when she goes to her room to grab her bag, she escapes through the window and goes down the fire escape to reach the parking lot with her car. Moments later, Laura is leaving the city and finds signs with graffiti asking to kill all rich people to contain the virus. Eventually, she finds the road blocked by too many cars and has to continue on foot. She then finds Christian, who has gotten her a spot on an old private plane. People are fighting to get aboard. Before leaving, Laura pretends that Tony is trying to take all her things in the divorce and asks Christian to take hold of her assets until the agreement is done. However, he can tell she's trying to pass her fortune to him and walks away without signing anything. Once everyone is aboard, the plane takes off with lots of shaking. Laura calls Tony to tell him she'll be in Barcelona in 6 hours and learns that he's at her mom's too. She tries to protest, but the call is cut short by bad signal. Then the passengers start discussing the situation, and it immediately escalates into a big argument. However, everyone starts freaking out when they notice the glowing teeth. The other passengers call him infected and try to attack him, so the man defends himself and starts beating people up. They accidentally fall on a lever and open the plane door, but this doesn't stop the fight. The man and the dog owner grab each other's faces to cause severe wounds, and another passenger uses the chance to kick them both off the plane. Once the flight has calmed down, Laura checks the news on her phone and learns all billionaires have been quarantined. Many of them are destroying their most valuable assets, hoping it'll keep the sickness at bay. People online are calling the virus the rich flu. Eventually, Laura arrives in Spain and sneaks out of the airport to call Tony. While waiting for him, she searches Snail's name and finds many articles saying he's disappeared without a trace, but his assets have been destroyed. Getting suspicious, Laura grabs the book he gave her and rereads the quote. She realizes there never was a project. Snail just used them to give them his fortune by pretending they were salaries and building the settlement. That way he could stop being rich. At that moment, Tony picks her up in his car. During the trip, he explains the situation here is the same. All the rich people were taken away, and nobody dares to go to work. When they find a road blocked by cops, Laura worries about her bag, which contains her jewelry and cash. Tony scolds her before hiding the bag and stopping the car so the police can do their check. Their health appears to be fine, and when an officer is about to look inside the car, a truck speeds down the road and crashes against the police barrier, causing a small explosion. With the officers rushing to take care of this, Laura and Tony use the chance to get back in the car and drive away. In the city, explosions are happening everywhere, and people are rioting in the streets while the government is trying to apply emergency protocols. Tony and Laura travel to a small town in the mountains and find houses with anti-rich graffiti on the walls. Laura searches for Anna and finds her having fun with other teenagers while wearing an anti-rich t-shirt. A furious Laura doesn't say a single word to her daughter and instead goes looking for her mother Marta to complain about putting her ideals in the young girl. However, Marta reminds Laura that Anna is safe thanks to her. Afterward, Laura joins the communal meal, but everyone is watching her with distrust. A gentleman notices her watch and remembers she bought it with her first salary, so he's impressed to see she still has it. Another man points out the virus is moving down the social hierarchy and wonders when it'll be Laura's turn. That night, Laura confesses to Tony that she's rich and what she tried to do to Christian. She also admits she's worried she may already have the virus and considers leaving. At that moment, the gentleman from lunch comes to warn her that the locals are angry and want her gone. An argument ensues because Marta and Tony don't want her to go, but soon an angry mob surrounds the family as they demand Laura to leave. Moments later, the entire family leaves together on a ship. Marta says she has a friend in Tanzania who lives off the grid and can take them in. There's a long journey ahead of them, and while they sail, they often see other ships trying to get away too. They survive by fishing and gathering water from the rain. One night, they hear a strange noise and realize it's a woman floating on a board asking for help. They immediately throw a rope to bring her to their ship and feed her. Her name is Yolene, and she explains she was adrift for 6 days. Suddenly, a military ship appears next to the families, revealing they've reached the coast of Libya. The soldiers explain that their country isn't accepting refugees at the moment before moving to arrest the family and tie their ship to the military one. The next morning, the ships stop near the coast of an African island before the soldiers tell the group to jump into the water and swim. When the group tries to protest, they're pushed off. Yolene and the family swim to the nearest beach and find a memorial dedicated to all the migrants who lost their lives at sea. The group then searches the area and find a refugee camp, where a huge crowd gathers around an army car to have a chance to grab some food. Yolene pushes her way through the violent mob and manages to get some supplies that she shares with the family. Afterwards, some doctors run a quick test on them to make sure they're healthy. People are being separated by place of origin, so Yolene is sent to the African tents while the family joins the other Europeans. A soldier tells them that they lost contact with the mainland 4 days ago and that Africa is only accepting their own citizens. Laura tries to explain she donated lots of money to African charities, but the soldier points out that's not how things work here. This means the family is stuck. While looking around, Laura is surprised to find E, who tells her that poor countries are doing fine while Europe is burning. He advises her to take shelter and not to come out until dawn. When he takes off his mask, he reveals glowing teeth. That night, Yolene and the family leave the camp and hide under some old debris. Laura tries apologizing to Tony for the way their relationship ended, but Tony stays silent, so she forces him to show her his teeth. It turns out they're glowing because he signed a contract that Christian ignored, so he's the current owner of Laura's fortune. The duo goes outside to discuss this, and Laura starts crying while Tony tells her to protect their daughter. At that moment, 2 men appear and knock out Marta before kidnapping Anna. Following her screams, Tony and Laura chase after them. Once they're close enough, they jump on the men to attack them, but Laura is easily overpowered and Tony has to fight both men himself. He starts beating up a man on the ground only to get stabbed in return. So Laura pushes Tony off and smashes the guy's head with a rock. Then she moves to the other guy to give him the same treatment, leaving her family in shock at her savagery. In the morning, the group returns to the camp and discovers it's been absolutely destroyed. They work with the survivors to build a huge boat and leave the island altogether. After sailing for several days under heavy rain, The boat is finally getting close to the African coast. However, a patrol ship appears and rams the boat to destroy it, sending all the refugees into the water while hoping to drown them. Laura holds onto some debris while yelling Anna's name to no avail. After being adrift for a while, Laura and some refugees are dropped on the African shore by the waves. The police are coming to arrest them all, so Laura immediately starts running and crosses a tunnel in a big wall to reach some abandoned buildings. She rushes from room to room, searching for a place to hide, and comes across an old lady who agrees to lend her some clothes. Now looking like a local, Laura returns to the streets, and the soldiers don't even notice her. She goes back to the beach and finds a group of locals that rescue refugees. Anna and Yelene are safe, but Marta is dead and they never found Tony. All the refugees are put on a truck and travel on a pile for days. After stopping for food and water, they have to keep moving on foot. Eventually, they make it to a beach where people are slowly building a village from scratch. The refugees are forced to put their personal possessions in a bowl so they can be used by everyone, and Laura has no choice but to leave her beloved watch too. From then on, Laura and the girls have to learn how to live off the land and help the community. One evening, Laura sees a woman wearing her watch and follows her to make a deal. She wants her to exchange the watch for some pretty shells she's been collecting. As she smiles, her teeth begin getting whiter.